Well, we've got a lot to talk about today. Satanists are offering a public program at a public school in Ohio. It's called the Hellion Academy of Independent Learning, also known as HEL. This individual said that the goal of what they're doing is to teach empathy, compassion, and justice, and to do that without religion.
The Satanic Temple is taking on religion in schools, using new laws in several states to try and get Satanist ministers inside classrooms.
In other words, you have to lay the foundation that if you are not actually in a good place, what makes you think that foundation that you had when you were a kid, it's gonna work for your kids? But let me just put it this way. Satanists are coming for your kids. Satanists are coming for your kids. Be prepared. Why? Because in states like Florida and I think Arkansas, we're gonna watch the video. Probably I'm mistaken about the second state, but there's 2 states that are actually ready to take the Satanist kids program. It sounds silly, it sounds horrible, but it is true. Let me just be completely honest with you. The founder of a Christian organization that provide kids with religious instruction during the public school day is responding to Satanist attempts to offer an alternative program to children. Now, as parents, me as a dad, me that I have actually kids at school, I'm going to keep on pushing with my wife to the point that we need to take our girls out of school and have them do homeschool. So I'm praying for the house big enough. So pray for me. Pray for every single one of you guys also that we can actually have a space so we can do homeschooling, because the values that you put into your kids, it's the most important thing for the rest of their lives. The values that you put in your kids, the Christian values, the moral values that you can actually give them, the way they respond, the way they talk, the way they interact with people. Also, they come from the house. They don't come from the school. You go to school and project what you have at home. Let me just give you an example really quick before we go into the video. We just had a meeting with one of my daughter's teachers, and she was just praising my daughter, how wonderful she is and how kind she is and how thoughtful she is for the way she acts with other kids. Also in the way that she interacts with other teachers, other students and stuff like that. That actually allows me to think and say, we're doing a good job. Me and my wife, what we're doing is a good job right now. So I praise my wife. I give her flowers because she is also the one who's taking the most right now. But also, like I said, I'm not going to say, she's doing everything, but we are a team, me and my wife, so we're taking over this stuff. Why? Because it's so important for me to understand that God gave us these kids, that God gives us a family, that God gives us kids. If you have kids in your family, if you adopted kids, these are precious. These are precious before God's eyes. The kids are precious before God's eyes because they are the ones who are gonna keep on spreading the gospel. Or if you didn't actually make him grow up in Christian environment, they're just gonna live their life. But the thing is, at the end of the day, they're gonna need some sort of a spiritual walk. To me, it's becoming more evident that we need to instruct our kids, because at the end of the day, I care about my kids in their spiritual walk with God. I care about their souls. I care about what they're going to do. Yes, I care about their future, about how they're going to make money and stuff like that. But the most important thing is I care about their spiritual walk with God. So for me, like I said, anything I can do, I'm just going to support that access. But let me just put it this way. We already seen this with groups like LGTV. I'm speaking in code. LGTV, you name it. All these groups that are literally coming for your kids. They're coming for your kids. I'm not joking. I'm not kidding. If you don't believe me, please just look around. Look in the social medias. Look at what your kids are watching. We literally just ban all kinds of social media interaction right now in our home for our older daughters. What we play is sometimes just little here things like Superbook, like a little things, cartoons over there in the background for the babies. While me and my wife, we eat lunch and stuff like that. But we try to cut everything that is social media. Why? Because we understand that the enemy is trying to get our kids. Okay, let's go to this video. And keep your ears open. Keep your ears open. Parents, Christian parents is most likely. If you don't believe in God, I'm not pressing. I'm just letting you know. Still, the enemy, the devil, the spiritual evil force is trying to get your kids. It's trying to get your kids. It's trying to get your kids. If you need more information, if you need some counseling, my information is down below on the description. Put your comments down below. Also, like this video, subscribe. Let's go to this video.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today. Satanists are offering a public program at a public school in Ohio. It's called the Academy of Independent Learning, also known as HAL. What do we know about this? Tell us a little bit about what you know about this program, Joel.
Yeah, well, the Satanist program it's going up, I guess, in Marysville, Ohio. It is explicitly a response to the LifeWise Academy program, which is the ministry that I help lead, and it's really hard to say what to know about it because the messages that we're getting from those who are launching the program are somewhat mixed. At times they will say this is explicitly an attempt to scare the school board and communities into shutting down all religious programs like ours, LifeWise Academy. Other times they'll say, oh, but you shouldn't be scared of this because it is going to teach kindness and values and that type of thing. And so it's not super clear exactly what the program is about. One thing that is clear is not only that it's a response to what we're doing, but it seems to be a last-minute attempt to stop or delay the legislation that's working its way through the Ohio State House right now, which will give the right of religious instruction to all families.
So talk about that legislation, and we're going to get into more of what release time looks like and all of that, but what does the legislation that is working its way through the legislature look like? What would that give exactly?
Yeah, so when it comes to release time religious instruction, the Supreme Court has ruled that it's constitutional. However, state laws help explain how it's going to work in each state. And in some states, it is literally a right for parents, meaning there's a law that says if a parent wants this for their child, the school shall release them. So there's about a dozen states that have laws like that. Other states have language that doesn't use the word shall, it uses the word may, as in schools may release students. It's not required. And we, of course, are advocating for the stronger laws. We think that the parents should have the ultimate say, not school boards, whether a student has access to religious instruction during school hours. And so there's legislation in Ohio moving through that will change Ohio from what we would call a may state to a shall state. So move control from the local public school into the hands of parents to decide for their children. We've been advocating for this. It's been a several month-long process. And here in this lame duck session, it looks very likely to pass.
Okay, so now you have that and release time. So we can go a little bit more into detail on this for those who don't know. What you're offering through Lifeway, it is religious instruction during the school day and during the school day. Talk a little bit about what that looks like. Now, kids are bused during lunch, during free periods outside of the school. Talk about what that looks like.
Yeah, what few people realize is that while in many ways Bible education and public school have been separated, what few people realize is that there is a legal path to have the two integrated, and it's called release to time religious instruction. And the Supreme Court said, yes, kids can receive Bible education during school hours if the program's off school property, privately funded, and students have parental permission. Sadly, this opportunity has been somewhat under the radar for decades. However, our program, LifeWise Academy, we provide the tools and resources so any community can launch a local program. We guide communities through the process of first gathering signatures, then putting a leadership team together, and ultimately opening a program so kids in their community can sign up, the parents can sign up the kids, and one time per week, usually during, like a lunch and recess or library time or a special time, students can typically jump on the big red LifeWise bus and head down the street to the church down the road and receive a Bible education class, a gospel-centered Bible education class, right during their public school day.
So that's pretty amazing. And again, it's not compulsory. It's something that you can do by choice. You opt your kids into it. You've had incredible success with this. And you have had, this is not the first time there's been a purported response to what you're doing. You talked to me months ago about NBC. They did a very strange segment on your work. And we talked quite a bit about that segment. You've had people sort of coming after you on this, I think because it's been so successful, offering people who, and I want to emphasize this because we're looking at our public school system right now. A lot of people have concerns about what is being taught in that school system, about the lack of faith, about the fact that there's no discussion about anything eternal or important in the school system. And so you've created something where parents can have that for their kids off of school property. It doesn't violate the separation of church and state that everybody wants to argue about all the time. And so talk a little bit before we continue about your numbers, because your growth has been astounding.
Yeah. So to tell you a little bit about you want me to talk about the numbers first?
Yeah. Start with the numbers first, because
Yeah.
I think it's pretty incredible when you look at your growth.
Yeah, well, it has been quite a ride because we started this program. The idea on paper was 2018 when we learned this was possible. So we said, let's try it. Let's create a plug and play program communities could implement. We launched in 2 programs in 2019. They went great. Of course, then COVID came and we kind of weathered that storm. And in 2020, we said, hey, let's set a 5-year goal. Let's try to serve 25 schools by 2025. That was our kind of catchy, goal, 25 by 25. And here we are in 2024, and the Lord has been so good. We have more than 20x'd our goal. We are confirmed to serve over 600 schools this year, and that's across 31 states. And so I guess when we said 25 schools by 2025, we should have been saying 25 states by 2025. But even beyond that, our process to get started is through a local signature campaign, basically a petitioning process of local communities gathering signatures saying, hey, LifeWise, we want you to work with us to start one. And we now have thousands of districts across the country. In fact, over 6,000 districts, which is nearly 50% of all public school districts. So there's people in the community gathering signatures, beginning the work of starting local programs.
I mean, it's really amazing to consider the amount of work and effort that goes into getting this to go where it's supposed to go. But I think it also shows us that, dream big, right? Because you had those numbers and you obliterated them in about 5 minutes. But I think that's why you're getting the reaction that you're getting here, right? Because people who are not in the Christian community, people who do not like the idea of faith being present, there's a response in that. Now, the director of this Ohio program with the Satanists, this individual said that the goal of what they're doing is to teach empathy, compassion, and justice, and to do that without religion. That's interesting to me.
Okay, let me just pause right here because this is true. This is something that they try to implement: compassion, kindness, goodness. All this stuff that he's saying, all these attributes that only are found in God, the standard of all goodness. Let me just put you in that perspective. We are creatures. We are people who are created by God, and we have something in us. Let me just preach a little bit. We have something in us that is actually coming from God. We have a seal from God in our lives, in the way we act. We might not actually believe in God. We might actually not go to church. We might not actually believe that Jesus came and gave his life so we can be saved. That's totally separate from what we are as human beings. So now, this is something that I cannot explain and my mind cannot comprehend. How can Satan teach goodness and kindness when we have clearly in the scriptures that he disguised as an angel of light so he can come, destroy, kill? Where's my sound? There's no good. Let me just be clear. There's no good in what Satan wants for your life. And what he wants for your life is totally destruction. That's exactly what is happening right now in the Middle East. That's exactly what's happening right now in this country. Division. That's exactly what is happening right now. The pride that we have as human beings is destroying the goodness and kindness, the standard that God has actually placed in us, so we can actually coexist, just like atheist says. But at the same time, this is critical times for all families, critical times for all parents, critical time for the economy, you name it. Let me just give you some examples. I'm sorry that I'm interrupting this, but let me give you an example. In Proverbs 29:16, when the wicked are in authority, sin flourished, but the godly will live to see their downfall. And I'm not actually saying I'm happy that at some point we don't take judgment in that sense. That judgment comes from God, and God alone is going to judge every single bad deed that is happening against our families, against you, and against your kids. Now, we're going back to this point. What can we do? Let me just tell you something that I've been learning this week, and I've learned it before, but I never thought about it this way. God preserves, listen to me, God preserves what we prepare. Let me give you the next example in the next part of the version right here and that I have. This is an NLT, Proverbs 29:17. The next verse is, discipline your children and they will give you peace of mind and they will make your heart glad. When people do not accept, listen to this part right here. When people do not accept divine guidance, they run wild. But whoever obeys the law is joyful. Where's my sound? Boom. I just want to encourage every single one of parents who are listening right now. And if you please just share this video to people, I want to encourage every single parent that even if you don't believe in God, if you believe there's something out there, if you go outside and you see the sunset, if you go outside and you see the sunrise, if you go outside and you see how beautiful nature is, it's not man-made. It's something that it was created by a creator. So I just invite you to think about this stuff, to think about what we are going through, to think about your kids. God gives you your kids. The Bible says that children are an inheritance of God. So think about it. You have to take care of this inheritance. You have to take care of this little minds. You have to protect them. You have to, especially, I'm talking to Christian people right now, especially if you're Christian, if you believe that God is your Savior and your protector, and he's going to protect your children. Your job, in order to allow God to preserve your job, is to prepare your kids. I'm leaving with that. I'm just finished the next part of the video right here, and I'm going to show you a little part of the video where the news actually are telling us what's going on with this type of kids programs.
I don't know if you have any reaction to that. If that's the true goal there of the program, what does that mean in your view?
Well, I understand what the words mean, but I think it seems a little unrealistic. I think it's basically saying I want to build a building without laying a foundation. I mean, those things of empathy and compassion and kindness, those arise out of a worldview, and a worldview as it relates to morality and the larger questions of life. And you're not going to be able to build those concepts on a purely atheistic or religious-less worldview. So I think it just seems unrealistic.
That is correct. That is correct. He just nailed it.
So tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic.
By the way, this video is done 7 months ago. They were already calling it out. And this is becoming a reality at some point. But let's just pray that God can stop this. And I just encourage you to pray for this. That God can stop this type of... We're going really, 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 really going bad against the LGTV. Again, I'm speaking in code, the LGTV community, all this community that wants to take your kids and just say, hell, let them live their life. No, in your hands, parents, in your hands is the life and death of your kids. In your hands, what you allow your kids, the foundation that this brother right here was telling us, needs to be laid down before they go out of the house. In other words, you have to lay the foundation that if you are not actually in a good place, what makes you think that foundation that you had when you were a kid, it's going to work for your kids? I'm going to bombard everybody right now. If you think you're in a good place, let me just go to another place. If you worship your life and you say, I don't need God because I'm okay. I don't need God. Absolutely not. I don't need God. There's going to be a time when you're going to need something from God. And most of the time we were made for worship. So we worship our lifestyle. We worship that we don't need God. We worship that we already have a car. We worship that we have belongings. We worship that we have things. We worship that we have money, a good job. I don't need God. I don't need to go to church. I don't need God in any area of my life because I'm good. That is called you putting worship in your life. And that worship is taken by the things that you obtain. It's a self-centered style. And I'm just putting that in a perspective for everybody so they can understand that we all need God. We all need God. Regardless if you are in a good place or not, you need God. And if you think that we can go in life without thinking that there's a creator out there, maybe you're blind. I don't know what's happening with you. But let's go with this part of the video, and I'm just saying bye-bye.
We've been watching, and tonight it's an unexpected but powerful group which says they're fighting to protect the separation of church and state. The Satanic Temple. We told you about them before on the show. Remember, they're battling a lot of conservative movements by fighting for what they say is their members' religious rights. One issue we've seen them gain some traction on is abortion. They've sued states over access to it, even launching what they call the first ever religious abortion clinic network. Now, The Satanic Temple is taking on religion in schools, using new laws in several states to try and get Satanist ministers inside classrooms. Here's Maura Barrett.
Tonight, the Satanic Temple wants to put its own ministers in public schools in both Florida and Oklahoma. It's a move in opposition to conservative lawmakers in those states voting to allow religious chaplains to serve in schools, essentially as counselors.
Chaplains have a very specific role.
13 other states have proposed similar bills this year. The demonic-sounding group using this debate to push back on certain Christian ideals and its increasing overlap on public life.
If they pass these bills, they're going to have to contend with ministers of Satan acting as chaplains within their school districts.
Lucian Greaves, who uses a pseudonym to protect against threats, is a co-founder of the Satanic Temple.
They're going to lose in court. The Constitution is unambiguous about this. You just cannot take a religious identity and cut it out from a public accommodation. They'll have to pay the attorney's fees, and frankly, they shouldn't be putting that kind of budget into this kind of culture war grandstanding BS.
Though in its name, the temple doesn't worship Satan. Instead, describes itself as non-theistic and has become known for inserting itself into various culture wars as an opposition to hardcore Christian ideals.
Whether you agree with them or not, they certainly are very thoughtful about their activism. What they're concerned about is how Christianity is privileged within an American society and has rights.
Because this country was founded in the Bible. So, okay, again, guys, I just want you just to think a little bit. All the blessings, and there's blessings when you dwell. There's blessings when we do allow God in our school system. There's blessing when we allow God in our families. There's blessing, it could be in any way. God can work in any way. I'm not going to put a label and saying God only works in this way. God works in different, many ways. And he gives many blessings because that's a consequence for you to have God in your life. So again, if we allow, just like Proverbs 29:17, you think Satanism is not wicked. It's against God. Let me just put it this way. It's against the constitution of God. It's against what God sees you, how God sees you, because you are his creation. You become a kid of God when you allow God's mercy to clean you and to allow you into the family of God, and that's called grace. But we are creation of God. So God is still, the Bible says in John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only son. He still loves you. He wants you to be near to him. He wants you to be closer to him, but we don't allow God and the principles of God and the standard of God to rule our nation. And this is exactly what's happening right now. This is how we have this wicked leadership, and this is how we have wicked systems that are just giving money to people in groups. Let me just be more clear, that are killing the good morals of this country. They want to infiltrate themselves. They don't call themselves religious, but they want to infiltrate themselves in a religion system where they want to take over what Christianity has been working and has been giving good results. Anyway, I'm just, it just makes me upset when people just... I just pray for everybody's family. I just pray that we can have, if you guys can watch this video and just finish it because I'm just too excited right now, but pass it around, share it. This is something that we need to make sure we all need to think about.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
This is something that we all parents, we need to talk about and we need to be mindful. I'm going to cut it out right now, but God bless you. I pray for your family. I pray for every single one of you who's watching. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button. We'll see you next time.